What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me, as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this podcast your first listen for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Make sure you leave that 5-star review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. A lot to discuss on today's episode. We've got a lot of basketball action over the last week. We're going to start off few quick hitters, a few little side notes we think need to be discussed, and then we're gonna go a little bit more in depth, and we're gonna play a little game of early season or inevitability. But before we get into it, Chris, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Bulls pulled off a win, a couple wins. They even beat the Bucks. We're definitely going to talk about them. But again, getting into season form, trying to stay awake at 1 in the morning of those West Coast games. But man, it's so good just to constantly have good basketball on. And I think we're already seeing early on how much competition there is, and just how much parity we see every night, even though maybe I won't say the Wizards, but pretty much every team, even some of our tanking teams, are putting out some interesting performances, and it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, and look at you, even still willing to wear a Chicago Bears hat on screen even after that game on
Listen, man,
Sunday,
I looked in my
huh?
closet. I always like to put on something different. Usually, I like our coast to coast hat I got on, but I can't waver. And we're not even going to talk about that. That was tough. Caleb Williams will bounce back next week. Tyreek Stevenson. Um, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Tyreek Stevenson. Okay. But let's start on the fast break. Let's go through some quick things. And one quick thing throughout the whole course of the season, this should be a quick thing that we'll never talk about again. I promise. And I promised last time I mentioned it too. Ben Simmons is already out for back issues. Let's
Even
touch
though
on
he was
that.
back, even though he was back, there was 100. He was 100%, nothing wrong with him. He's fully healthy, and yet he's already under load management, injury concern, rest.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Okay. Let me address this quickly. Uh, I number one, let me defend myself. I never said that I thought it was going to be a thing. I thought it would be the most compelling comeback player of the year because of his talent, blah, 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 blah. We won't rehash it. But I really think that this is the end for Ben Simmons. And the reason why I feel strongly about it right now is just because the back issues, I think, really start to explain the, the unwillingness to score, the unwillingness to really attack the basket. How much of that is mental? How much of that is mental on if his back is not right? So, I do hope for him that somehow he finds a way to get better, but I think this is it, man. If this is really going to be it. If this is how his comeback season, his third in a row comeback season is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say this. I think it's more fouls than field goal attempts so far for him this year. So that kind of
Yeah.
just tells you where he's at,
Yeah.
where his body is at. It's just not there. And I guess he probably has that fear in the back of his mind when he's kind of stretching up a little bit extra to put up a little floater or even like a layup or a dunk, and that he just doesn't feel like his body's able to do it. And unfortunately, that's it's sad. It's a killer blow for Ben Simmons because we know the talent that he could have been, but unfortunately, he just doesn't feel like he's ever going to get even slightly close to that sort of level again, even close to being adequate starter. That seems even beyond the bounds of possibility here.
Yeah. Moving on the fast break, going the other way. Let's talk about some injuries on top of that. Steph Curry sprained his ankle twice. Looks rough. We all know the history of Curry's ankles, and ends up having a peroneal strain. It's going to be out for a little bit of time. Where do the Warriors look now for scoring? Who's going to step up?
I don't know. I think they initially said they're going to reevaluate him on Friday. That seems extremely quick. But yeah, I mean, this is where we're going to really get to see what this Warriors team is made of. Because obviously we saw Buddy Hield go off the other night. That was an
Yeah.
impressive scoring output from him. But you're not going to be able to rely on that. So I guess you're looking at Kaminga. This is Kaminga's time to kind of take over. Obviously, people are going to mention Wiggins and things like that. But I think this is really the time where you look to Kaminga to be that lead scorer on the team.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see who steps up. They extended Moody. Uh, Interested to see like what he does. He's only played 15 minutes per game in the 3 games we've seen him. Wiggins has really stepped up. Buddy Hield, like you mentioned. Um, Kuminga's been quiet, and
Hmm.
I'm glad you mentioned him because in a year that he needs to prove it, in after an offseason where him and his team are basically saying, hey, we're a max extension level guy. It's not shown in 3 games. So when does he get that back? Hopefully this is opportunity. Hopefully Curry's not too hurt. And this just gives Kuminga a chance to spark whatever player he's supposed to be that he thinks he is. Moving on to injuries, and this one far worse, really unfortunate. Hendricks of the Utah Jazz, a guy that, just talking basketball, like this guy really showed something on a Utah Jazz team that keeps finding diamonds in the rough. A stretch big who could defend 3 through 5, who can get blocks, get steals, pass a little bit, aggressive on the boards. Really had a interesting path towards being like a starter level, rotation level player in the NBA this year. Terrible injury last night, breaks his fibula and strains his ankle. I think if you look at that injury, that's more than just a broken bone. That is a ligamentous injury. That is something that's going to take a long time to rehab, probably out for the season. Just shout out to him. Hopefully he comes back stronger. It's going to be a long process back to recovery, but tough to see a young player, especially in somewhat of a prove it year, get injured so early. You hate to see that.
Yeah, especially like in a Jazz team that are pretty much tanking, even though they probably wouldn't admit it. They are tanking, so he would have definitely got been in a good position to get some opportunities to really show himself to be a piece worth building around for the future for the Utah Jazz. So yeah, definitely a big blow for him, young player, and just a blow for the Jazz in general.
Yeah, hopefully it gets better soon. In better news, last part of the fast break, I want to talk about Paolo Banchero dropping 50 points, tying the record for points and a half. I know you're a happy man with him on your fantasy team, but what a coming out party for a player and for a team who is now third in the Eastern Conference. Yes, it's early, but in terms of what they showed, the Magic look great. Paolo's breaking records, tying records, I should say, but they look good. And on top of that, Jalen Suggs also looking good beyond the arc, scoring the ball, still doing his thing on defense. Franz Wagner coming back to life early on. With Paolo Banchero looking this good, everyone else looking this good, spacing looking a little bit better. How good are we feeling about the Magic early on?
Yeah, I mean, great signs. Like this is them exactly doing what everyone wanted to hope and believe they were going to do is pick up right where they left off to finish out last season and not just have it be a one-hit wonder. Seeing Franz Wagner look back to himself, seeing the impact of a KCP, seeing the shots start to go down that little more, and of course the big one, Banchero, taking that next step to really getting up to being one of those like top 10, top 15 players in the
Mm-hmm.
NBA. That's kind of everything that we were hoping we saw, that everything the Magic were expecting early doors, kind of seeing all of it, which is obviously a huge plus for them.
Yeah, he's such an interesting player because, when you watch his game, he maybe he doesn't necessarily wow you with his speed. Sometimes he's, a little bit slower than some other ball handling wings. Maybe he's not the flashiest passer. Maybe he's not like the most crisp pick and roll operator. Maybe he's not a knockdown 3-point shooter. Maybe he's not a completely lockdown defender. But he's like borderline elite at all of those things. Like he's good at all of those things. And I think what jumps out is like the fact that as he's slowly getting better at every aspect of his offensive game, his pull up mid range, his spot up three, now he's taking threes on the move. Now he's taking a lot more jumpers off of screens. You can't go under when he's a mid range because he's going to take that and he's going to make it. He's going to make it at a high clip. His mid range stat is something that I think is becoming elite. Now he's really starting to round out, and he's might be one of those guys that you wake up and you're like, wait, yeah, like you're saying, this guy's a top 12 player. This guy's arguing himself for, he's not top 10 yet. I mean, there's a lot of basketball politics that goes into that discussion itself. But in terms of like, hey, who are the best talents in the NBA? Like it's becoming that, and slowly because of just how balanced he is as a player. And I think about offensively in particular, how many guys can you think of that you just give them the ball and give them space and you just can't defend them one on one? And I think I put Paolo Banchero squarely in that sort of role. And there's not a ton of guys that you necessarily do that with. Like he's just too strong. Any wing defender who is not a strong, big, power forward, borderline center. He's going to bulldoze right through them. He's going to get to the rim. He's going to post him up, get to a fade. And then you put a big on him, he's going to attack him from the perimeter. Like he's like not it's not talked about enough how like one on one, there's not really any equation for that. And we didn't get to see too much of that because there's just so many doubles that he would get thrown his way early on. And then now that we're getting some spacing, we're starting to see it. Like he's gonna break out in a big way this year. I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, no, it's been impressive. Obviously, the youngest forward since LeBron James dropped 50 in a game, and it's kind of almost a good thing for him that there's almost not that much of a spotlight in Orlando, so he can kind of just quietly go about doing his thing. There isn't that pressure as much to kind of, other than from the Orlando fan base, and just the pressure he's going to put on himself to be that elite player, that you're not going to get it as much from the media, and that could almost work in his favor.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that it's LeBron James that is being invoked by this because sometimes you see that. Like I'm not we're not doing a he's gonna be LeBron James. Not doing that. But in terms of just the strength and the way that if you just try to go one on one of him and he just goes through guys, he gets to the rim at will. That is it feels very LeBron-esque. And the way he's able to read the floor now better, making good skip passes, like really making that the second read, like it's been impressive to watch. And maybe this was an early premonition or inevitability, but it feels like the Magic are starting to become inevitable.
Mhm. Yeah, no, things are clicking in Orlando, and it looks good. It's worrying for other teams in the Eastern Conference for sure. Another Eastern Conference team I want to quick hit on quick, the Indiana Pacers.
Okay.
Difficult start for them. They beat the Detroit Pistons, then they've lost three straight to the 76ers, the Magic, and the Knicks. We're kind of looking at the early season of the Pacers is kind of what we feared they were last year. They would be last year, and what they were the year before is that as much as they were this high flying, fun team, they often came up short when it actually came to win losses.
I'm worried. So should we do the panic or not panic?
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah,
No,
let's get
let's
into
just
it.
jump
Yeah.
right into it because I think Pacers are squarely in that conversation. Um, right now they are 21st in offense, and that is what they hang their hat on. And a lot of this has to do with Tyrese Halliburton, and this is a very small sample size, but you see him go scoreless, you see him struggle with his shot, and again, I still feel like there's this need for perimeter shooting. Like Buddy Hield was a big part of that, and that's still not there. We're still not seeing Siakam be this all NBA player. Like he's being solid, he's being efficient, he's being a great piece alongside Tyrese Halliburton. But when he struggles, like he needs to also kind of elevate his game. He needs to be more aggressive. And the other guys are not really up to par with that. So can they recapture the magic? Or is that just a blip?
Mm.
That I guess that's my question. If that's the panic. The panic right now is did we fool ourselves into thinking that a few months span of basketball last year that was just a ride, a magical ride, that was just a blip? What's our panic level? We'll go DEFCON. And we finally learned our DEFCON levels now. DEFCON 5 being safe. DEFCON 1. That
Being
is that is
crazy,
panic. That is
burning
nuclear
the house
nuclear
is burning.
panic.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
in trouble
everyone
now.
duck and cover. Everyone get in your bunkers. Are we getting in our bunkers right now?
No,
After
no,
what we saw at the end of last season and seeing preseason and seeing right now.
no. We don't have to. We don't have to dive that deep yet. I will. I'm willing to say DEFCON 4. I'm not going to say it's easy everyday life. I'm going to go DEFCON 4 for the start that the Indiana Pacers have had. A little bit worrisome, but hopefully you'll see Halliburton's shot start to go down a little bit more. Things get a bit easier. Hopefully Mathurin again. He keeps on going. He had a good first game against the Pistons. Hasn't really continued that on. So he's another big piece that you want to see start to really take off now that he's going to get the opportunity. So I'm at DEFCON 4 with the Indiana Pacers, I'd say.
I I'd say I'm at 3 approaching 2. And
Okay.
I'm shopping for bunkers. I'm looking around. I'm looking for canned food sales. If there's like 4 for 1 soup, I'm buying it. I'm stocking it. I might need it. And the reason why is that the run that they're on last season, I mean, Tyrese Halliburton was on pace to putting together one of the best point guard seasons of all time. And I do think that's an accurate reflection of how good he is as a playmaker, as a passer. But then you also had the guys around him shooting historically well for themselves from three, uncharacteristically well. Things that kind of faded by the end of the season. And me as a Bulls fan, I know very well what it looks like when teams have flashes of things that maybe are not going to last a long time. And I'm a bit worried that, for example, Neesmith, a guy that I've always wanted to be this elite knockdown shooter because that's what he's shown, talked about it ad nauseum, but it's not going to happen. And I think that flash last season that fizzled out pretty quickly at the end of the season, that is not going to be there. So who's going to be that? And I love Nemhard, but he's also not necessarily that elite level. So the thing that they hang their hat on that they were so good at last season, that they were historically good at for a period of time, is not there anymore. And I don't think that that is like the foundation for who they are, but I think maybe a vision for what they could be. And I'm not sure the personnel on this team right now is going to bring it there.
Yeah, that probably is fair. I think then you think about how their role players really kind of over delivered last year.
Yeah.
Obviously, you couldn't say that last year until you saw what we're seeing so far this year. So far this year, it looks like they really over delivered last year, and they're not going to be able to sustain that. Maybe that can still change, but yeah, if that is the case, then the panic definitely goes up with Indiana.
Um, Another team that I think I want to spend a little bit of time on this. So let's spend a little bit of time on this. But how much are we going to panic? How much of Milwaukee panic about the Bucks?
It's just it's bad. They I know they're without Chris Middleton right now, but that could be permanent with the way his health is. Uh, I'm pretty much in the same spot that you are with the Pacers with them. DEFCON 3, close to DEFCON 2 with the Milwaukee Bucks because it's just really bad. Like they're losing not just against good teams, they're losing to bad teams. First game of the season, they go out and beat the 76ers who were without Paul George and without Joel Embiid. And everyone's kind of like, okay, ooh, Dame and Giannis, they actually look pretty good here. They combined for 55 points, 23 boards, 13 assists. Dame goes 6 to 12. Giannis is 8 of 11. Oh, this is what we were going to get. This is what we're going to get all year. Oh, the Bucks are back. The Bucks are back. Then they lose to the Bulls. They let Vooch, Kobe White, and Levine combine for 82 points. Then they lose to the Nets. Like, come on, you can't be losing to the Nets. They let the fucking Dennis Schroeder and and Cam Thomas just absolutely destroy them. I didn't know they were the greatest backcourt in the entire NBA.
Listen. Dennis Schroeder is Allen Iverson in the Olympics, and if he could just like channel a little bit of that night in, night out, then I'm not too shocked. But it's insane. And I have something specific on that though. You named a few guys, and to continue, I don't know if you're going to mention Pritchard as well. Lit him up for
Hmm
28 points. Who dropped all these points on him? Schroeder and Cam Thomas, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Peyton Pritchard. Their perimeter scorers, the opposing teams, just go off. Why? If you watch the games, these are not anomalous shots. These are not, crazy, contested shots. And, all right, you just tip your cap. They shot really well. These are wide open shots. These are very easy looks. And you go into Boston after losing to the Bulls and the Nets and giving up those many points to those guards, specifically from beyond the arc, you're going to go up against the best three-point shooting team in the league, the best corner three-point shooting team in the league. And you lose not because, just effort, or just these intangible things of like, we weren't trying, we're not locked in, we need to find our identity. No, like, no, a lot of it's game plan. Why are you helping off the corners? Like why are you allowing Peyton Pritchard to be wide open? Why are you allowing Kobe White to be wide open? Why are you allowing, Cam Thomas to just have free reign? Like these guys are all gonna feast on a defense that has no real perimeter defenders. And it's the same theme as last year. Dame is just being like put in every single screening action. If you watch like just watch Dame on defense every time, the ball's going to his guy every single time. And in the open, the worst part about this too is not only is Dame getting attacked there, um, in the open court, no one's picking up. Like it's the same theme as last year. Like it doesn't matter. Doc Rivers, that didn't get fixed. Clearly, all these talks about like them coming up with this new defensive identity scheme, like where? Because it's not showing up. Didn't show in preseason, not showing up now. And yes, it's highlighted by the Celtics loss, but we're also talking about the Bulls and Nets. You
Yeah.
guys should be 2 tiers ahead of them. Like those should have been you bank those wins, easy dubs, and you worry about the rest of the schedule, which is going to be real tough, by the way. And I'm debating, I might be with you, like DEFCON 3, might be shopping, but I mean, you got too much talent on this roster. You got Giannis Antetokounmpo, you have Damian Lillard. Same discussions last year. It shouldn't be here, but maybe this is just the best that they can do with what they have because it doesn't feel like a championship roster at all.
Yeah, I mean it's getting weird. Like they should be 3-1, but instead they're 1-3. That's just the case for the start of the season. Yes, we're only 4 games in, but let's not forget they are now 19 and 23 since Doc Rivers took over.
Hmm.
Like that's really bad. And everyone was like, okay, he's gonna have a full off season, full preseason to really get his message across. The team's gonna be a lot better. And then they start the season 1-3, losing to two teams that we fully believe one of them is absolutely tanking, and another one is kind of in the middle between tanking and somewhat the playing positions of what we're expecting. And they lose to both those teams. Things are getting worrisome. At this very moment, it feels like they could go the way of the Brooklyn Nets in 2022, 2023, where they blow it up at the trade deadline.
Whoa. Oh, that's DEFCON, like, bro, that's nuclear missiles are armed and ready to go, and
Maybe
we're
that's a
we're
slight overreaction right now, but
yeah, that is. That
you
is.
can see that down the line. It,
Yeah.
it it is not crazy to see that happening.
No, no, no. I feel that. Maybe we're like a year pre-Cuban Missile Crisis, and we're kind of like, what's going on? And it feels like a it's not crazy to think that that is how this could go. And I say that not just because of the fact that they're losing or the things you see on the court, but I say that because it's a continuity of failed schemes defensively that are the same stuff, and you see them consistently not communicate on defense and not rotate quick enough, and just not really. There's just no sense of defensive identity. And Giannis even said that himself after the Brooklyn loss. So it's not inconceivable to think about how lost they feel on the defensive end and even on the offensive end. Like a lot of this is that doesn't feel crisp. A lot of times they're getting into their actions late. They're getting into it, and not everyone's spaced at the right time when David. And it's that same timing thing last year when it was like, okay, Damian, they're not getting into the action because they're just getting used to each other. Why does it still feel that way? Why do you still see that? And Giannis is that good, Dame is that good, where they're still going to score off of that, but it still doesn't feel like good offense. It feels like great players and opportunistic scoring, as opposed to that they've created some system around them. It doesn't feel like that yet. So why, after a year, is that not like that? After we touted them in preseason last year as the strongest duo, the most inevitable duo in the league, and that has just fallen so short. So maybe we are closer to that than we think, because the way they continue to react to these losses will be a big predictor of what the mood will be like at the trade deadline. I don't think it's going to go that way because that's a little bit dramatic, but it's a fear. And it's always been a fear of, hey, like, you got to make Giannis happy. He wants to win championships. He doesn't just want one. So
Don't worry, they'll fire Doc Rivers and Darvin Ham can take over, and that will really turn things up then.
the I don't know what they got to do, man. But Doc, uh, yeah, the defense looks stuck in the past. The offense isn't crisp. Do you blame the players? Do you blame the coach? Do you blame everybody? Who do you blame? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, everyone can point the finger at each other. I think there's kind of a everyone can take a pretty decent share of the blame here. It's just a question of can this work and how long does it take till we just say they had to try this with Dame and Giannis. They had to try this big sweep to try and get that championship window extended, and it just so far it's just not working. Whether
Yeah.
it doesn't work, full stop, we should that remains to be seen.
And the last point I want to make with the Bucks is we don't talk about their talent issue. We love to talk about it with the Lakers. We love to crap on the Lakers. Like, look, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. Why aren't they going after this guy? Look at their roster. How many non-NBA guys do they have? Those non-NBA guys actually look kind of decent to start the season. Is that coaching? Is that scheme? Is that player development? We'll talk about the Lakers in a minute, but kudos to them because I don't really feel like talking about it because it's not really an issue right now. The Bucks, it's been an issue for a minute, and we haven't really talked about it, to be honest. I'll hold myself accountable for that. But how many non-NBA players do they currently have in their roster? I'm not gonna throw out too many names, but a lot of guys getting minutes that would not be getting minutes anywhere else. And God forbid they have an open roster spot. I think I would be completely done with the Bucks. Completely done. If they sign Thanasis Antetokounmpo, who is not going to play this year because of his Achilles. Like I can't imagine they would do that, but if they did, that would just be the sign of the rot that has taken over this team. There's just no way. But I discussed that. I want to discuss that real quick just because is there anybody we imagine? Like, is there a Markelle Fultz, a Dennis Smith Jr.? Is there somebody that you pick up that can energize his defense, that can bring a little bit more dynamic playmaking from the perimeter, that can do something? You know, be a playmaker on defense. Really bring it. Because the only guy who really does that is Andre Jackson Jr., who can't score the basketball. And great effort, but is he an NBA player? I don't know. It doesn't look like it. Maybe he's not that way because of the Bucks. But that being said, who else? Like Tyler Smith, AJ. I mean, AJ's too young. Champ. I mean, they might even trade Pat Connaughton. I mean, he just hasn't done anything meaningful the past 3 years. It feels like. But all this in a long tirade to talk about one of the premier NBA teams. Like Giannis Antetokounmpo is a megastar in this league, and when you watch him play, it feels like the vibe has changed, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it feels like that. Now it feels like it wasn't a joke when he kind of made that little remark about getting traded at the end of the season. Now watching this early season and just watching him generally, it doesn't feel like that was a joke. That was very much felt like a threat. That was a statement that is probably going to happen.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel fun. The vibes are off, and we'll have to monitor it. Um, but man, if that is where it goes, like that would be talking about the trade rumors they've dealt with, the blowing up rumors that they've dealt with in the past. This would be the worst that they've ever dealt with the way the league is now. But who else do we have? Anybody else that we on DEFCON alert for?
I don't think so. I don't think the Knicks can qualify for that yet. I think they've had one really bad performance, one really good performance, then one kind of mid performance where Cleveland kind of just took over from them. But I don't think they're too. I'm not too worried just yet.
Okay. Um, do we go out west? Talk
Sure
about the
thing.
Lakers again? Are we talking about the Lakers again? You know I hated talking about the Lakers before. I actually like talking about the Lakers now. I like what's been going on. Um, so we had the Suns and Lakers play last night. An important game, I think, symbolically, because we see the Suns obviously not have the postseason they wanted last year, and same with the Lakers. Both go to Cancun, 4 games, and all they changed really. They got a new coach, they got a new quote unquote system. I think JJ got a little bit more shine than Bud did, but without really any major personnel changes, it feels tangibly to me that these teams feel different, and the Lakers in particular. Um, let's just start with AD. Like opening night, AD looked good, and AD continues to look good. AD, for the purpose of not going too crazy here, like I don't want to say MVP mode because that's a little bit crazy, but he just feels aggressive.
But it's accurate.
Is it?
It's crazy, but it's
It,
accurate.
it's it is accurate. It is accurate, and I will say that it's the fact that the ball gets to him and he's looking to score, and he's looking to be aggressive on the boards, and playing the five more has really looked good on him. And the shooting's still not there. I think we got a little too excited after game one, and since then it's dipped. He's still taking some above the break threes. He's not really making them, but keeping them honest. The mid range still has not really come around yet. But it's how aggressive he is in the paint. And yes, he faced a bonus. Yes, he faced Nurkic, but he destroyed them. Like he was
Big,
unstoppable
big
against them.
news for him beating Sabonis.
Yeah,
That's a big deal.
and he also did the same thing to Rudy Gobert, who is crowned as the best interior defender in the league. So if this continues, is this something new? Like, are we going to look at the Lakers differently now because of how aggressive AD is and the rest of the team?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's finally happening. We've been calling for it forever. Bron, you be more of a facilitator and be a scorer when AD's not on the floor. But when AD's out there, you feed him the ball. He's the hub of the offense, and that's what it looks like so far this year. He's taken 3.1 more field goals per game than he did last season. He's just been all out dominant. You really notice it when he's not out on the floor, especially you were kind of seeing it a lot last night when he wasn't out on the floor. The Lakers were really kind of struggling to create offense, and that's something we didn't notice as much previously. You more notice on the defensive end when AD's not out there. Now you're noticing on the offensive end. So I think that like that, it wasn't just words from JJ from LeBron this offseason. It wasn't just words saying that we're gonna get more from AD. We're gonna use him more. We're actually seeing it come to fruition now, and I love it because well, we've needed to see this for a long time, and they arguably would be 4-0 so this season if LeBron James hadn't thrown up one of his worst games in I don't know
Yeah,
how long last night,
yeah,
because he really struggled, and not just his shooting the ball, his general play and some of his decision making was really bad as well. But AD has just been unbelievable, like 33, 12, like 2.5 blocks, 1.5 steals, still shooting efficiently from the field. Obviously, a lot of that is dunks and putbacks. With how aggressive he's being, he's earning those putbacks and things like that. So I think his offense game is really there. He's still a monster defensively. Just a question of can it continue? And as long as he's healthy, I don't see why it can't continue.
yeah. And that the health is always a thing, but I think the mindset too is new, and you love to see it. And for
Mhm.
the rest of the team too, I want to give a shout out to Rui Hachimura,
Yeah,
who he has.
Lakers
It's
need
felt,
that.
yeah, like his outside shot has been more aggressive with it. His ferocity attacking the basket, like him and AD also, like it feels like both of them are putting the most pressure on the rim.
Hmm.
Rui's putting more pressure on the rim, it feels like, than LeBron. Like
Yeah,
that has created a lot more opportunities for perimeter shooting. And Austin Reeves has looked a lot more polished. I don't know why at times it felt like he was a little bit lost last season in a weird season that honestly I think a lot of it had to do with confidence in minutes and lineups and not knowing, what necessarily the game plan was. And I can attribute that early on to, JJ Redick and what he's done to, affirm everybody's roles and affirm the minutes, affirm rotations.
white guy
That's
vibes too.
consistent.
They're vibing
Yeah,
together.
sure, sure. But I also want to give D'Lo a little pat on the back.
Not
D'Lo
for
has
his
looked.
shooting.
No, not for his shooting.
His shooting has been appalling.
No, not for his shooting, but his shot selection for the most part has been good. I've not been too head scratchy or upset, palms in the air with D'Lo when he shoots, and a
Fair.
lot of playmaking. Like I think he's
Hmm.
been really locked in as a playmaker and creating opportunities for others. And that's huge. And for him to like get into that early on, and for that to be a role that he's really kind of accepting and leaning into. So I mean, kudos to everybody all around because I think that the vibes are better. The vibes are not off the way it was last year, and it feels like they have a direction and they have things that they have to work on for sure. I mean, yeah, they're switching a lot more on defense and it looks good, and AD in the drop looks always looks good, and the AD minutes are very, very good. Yeah, yeah, AD MVP, but the non-AD minutes look kind of bad. They got to work
Hmm.
on that. Those are the reasons, and in the fast break, why their defense right now is 18th. When
Hmm.
he's on the floor, not the case. They're top 10 defense. Half court, top 10 defense. They need to fix up the stuff in the half and the fast break. They need to fix up when Jackson Hayes. I love his activity, but
Yeah, he's
just
just
out
not.
of position too many times. And it just goes to show, there's so many levels to this game, especially to the big man. And a lot of times it like for fans, like we oversimplify the center position, but it's such a vital position. It's so vital in how you're anchoring the defense. And so many times when Jackson Hayes is not in position, it's just lights out for the other team. That needs to get fixed. And that is personnel thing. I don't think Jackson Hayes is gonna be up to that, but that's a whole other conversation. But overall, without getting negative, golf clap.
Yeah,
Lakers look good,
that's
and I'm happy about it.
AD is going to really have to be on it for their next games, going up against the two-headed beast of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So he's going to have to be really, really on an MVP level to for them to
Yeah.
come out with a dub there.
Listen, if that's a big performance for him too, that's a statement game. That's a big statement game for him personally. I'm curious to see it. I mean, this would be it's you don't get to see a lot of when players reach their early 30s. It feels like their opportunity has not come and gone, but they are who they are. And if AD has another level to him, it's been one that we've been waiting for a while. And again, like we thought he was a top three player 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Back in New Orleans, we're like, hey, this is the next guy. And it's still there for him to take if that's how he can turn up. But going to the other side of it, the Suns, they are also doing pretty decent. Are we feeling like something has changed? The Tyus Jones injection, the Bud quote unquote system. Um, do we feel any different about them in the early goings?
Mhm. Yes, I was a little bit worried after the first couple of games. Didn't like how they played against the Clippers. I know it was tough. They're playing in that new arena. Obviously, the vibes were great for the Clippers, so it wasn't easy, and they did still come out with the win. But when I saw like Booker only taking 9 shots in that game, I was really mad, and just their general ability to not be able to close out the Clippers with all the talent they have offensively. Then again, go up against the Lakers, blow a big lead to the Lakers, end up losing by what I think it was like nearly 10 points. They lost by in the end after being up by nearly 20. Then against the Mavericks, it looked like they were interested in flirting with blowing a lead in the fourth quarter again as well. They did come out with a win there. They did. KD does what KD does, just make shots that are hard for everyone else and just like layups, uncontested layups for him. And then did a similar sort of thing last night. Again, Booker had the hot hand. He produced consistently over the whole game, but when they really needed a couple of big buckets, KD took over, and he's now the oldest player to start the season with four straight 25 plus games, and his shot just looks smooth as hell. I think your point that you made before the season started about Tyus Jones not really being that natural playmaker and not really having that ball in his hands all the time, that has stood true. I think the ball's getting moved into the hands of Booker and KD really quick, but I think it's working, and I think we'll see Tyus Jones have the ball in his hands more as the season goes on.
Yeah, and you haven't seen as much as you want to, and that was something I was worried. But he's still getting his numbers up, and he's still he's a guy that is going to get the actions quickly. Like he's going to bring the ball up, he's get the action quickly. He's going to organize offense. But as a spacer, that's not a bad thing. Like
Hmm.
he did that a lot with John Morant. He did that a lot with the Grizzlies, and he was a good shooter. I think the shot has not fallen yet, but the looks that he's getting and the looks that they're creating for him are good, and I like the process. I do. I like the fact that they can toggle. They can let Booker go to work if there's a mismatch, and Tyus Jones can space out the corner for him. And Tyus Jones can attack a closeout. Tyus Jones can get into a floater, or he can get into the lob game if we have a weak side cutter. and we have some weak side cutters. And I want to introduce somebody in this podcast that I don't think we mentioned before. I don't think I've even talked before. I haven't even really recognized his game. And I'm going to introduce the next Mikal Bridges, Ryan Dunn, for the Phoenix Suns. Getting a little bit of buzz right now, the 28th pick in the first round. Ironically, a draft night trade that the Denver Nuggets sent him to the Suns, and I'm not even remembering who they got for him. And it doesn't matter because Ryan Dunn is a guy who's actually starting for a playoff hopeful NBA team, and the other guy's not. So funny that, if we did talk about the Nuggets today, we'd be talking about how their 3-point volume is still a problem. Their perimeter defense is good, but having a big wing would be nice right now. And Ryan Dunn is that. He's a 6'8" guy who was undoubtedly the best defender in the draft last this year. Didn't get drafted high because no shot, but now he's banging threes. They look good. He's been a lot of news about it, if you read about it. Like he's been working on a shot all summer long. And, sometimes you just need that little bit. You need a guy who's going to fill a role that they've been missing. What they've been missing is perimeter defense, a lockdown defender, and a guy who's not going to take away from the spacing that makes Booker, Durant, and would be Bradley Beal so good. And if they get that out of a late pick in the first round, like how magic would that be? Because he's looked the part in preseason, summer league, and the first few games here, and it's been impressive. Like he's played Luka, LeBron, Cade Cunningham, and he's done a pretty good job.
Yeah, that's absolutely what that's so key for the Suns, the position that they're in financially, to be able to draft a rookie that can legitimately play consistent minutes, can legitimately contribute to the team on both ends of the floor. Like that's the absolute dream for this Phoenix Suns team, and he's doing it so far. Yeah, it's still early days. Yeah, he's still a rookie, but the early signs are great for this guy, and the fact that his shot is dropping right now is so big. That really kind of puts him into that realm where you really think this guy can play big minutes throughout the whole year, maybe even the postseason if it comes to that. I would also like to shout out Mason Plumlee. He was huge for
Yeah.
them last night. Like Nurkic, not at it. We're seeing Bud try to turn Nurkic into Brook Lopez with all the threes that he's shooting, but the importance of getting a guy like Mason Plumlee, just a straight up honest center, never going to be spectacular, but he'll go in there, he'll get his rebounds, he'll box out, he'll play hard defensively, and that's exactly what he did that last night, and they really needed that from him to get that W.
Like I'm not. I got to think about it. I got to think about this. But is Mason Plumlee a top what center passer? Top 10? Like he's very good. He's
He
very
is.
good at moving the ball. Like the ball does not stick in his hands. When he gets a rebound, he is very smart at knowing where to put it. And like that is something that is just so underrated about his game. Like everywhere he's been. And man, I think maybe this is just contrasted with Nurk. Like maybe I'm a Nurk hater. I think I'm a Nurk hater, and I admit it openly. But just the amount of just miscues from him, sometimes bad shots, sometimes just like not using his size to his advantage, and he just like stumbles his way into like a 15 and 10 double double, and it just bothers me. I don't know why.
I,
I don't
I think
know.
he's kind of back to that annoying Nurkic that we saw in
He's
in
been
in
that.
Portland.
He's always
And
been
and we
that.
were expecting it last year, but I think he was pretty good last year. I think he kind of overperformed last year based off of expectations, especially from us. And then so far this year, he's kind of been back to that annoying guy that you're kind of like, why the hell was this the guy that they went and got instead of Aiton?
Oh yeah, but yeah, well, what's Aiden doing? I don't even. At some point, maybe we'll talk about the Blazers when we have a reason. But all in all, Suns, Lakers. I think they're turning a page. I think there's still definitely work to do. Um, and for the Suns, I'm excited to see where they go with the rookie.
Mhm.
Because if they turn a page on the defensive end, I think a big part of it's going to be because of this guy.
Yeah, yeah, but absolutely agree. That could turn out to be a very, very smart deal that the Phoenix Suns made. We got anything else? You got any other teams you want to discuss before I get into my final little game?
Hmm. The Nets? The Nets, maybe. Jordy Fernandez getting his first win against the Bucks, and they kind of look fun, I think.
That's all we want from them.
Pay
They just have
attention.
to be fun and
Pay
lose.
attention. They I think also what's fun is that they are not just they are not a team that is just go watch Cam play. Go watch Cam Thomas. And I feel like there's this little bit of like, and I hope they feel this. I hope they do, because there's this little bit of condescension that comes with like laughing off. Oh, let's go watch Cam Thomas play. Let's go watch a Tank Commander play. And this level of disrespect when there's a lot of good NBA players on this roster. Yes, they're tanking, but I think they got a lot of talent. They got defensive players on this team, and they got a head coach. It's his first job, and he wants to win. He wants to compete. He wants to create an identity. And I think they've hustled. Like defensively, they've hustled. They've not been sloth. They've not been like overly disorganized. And the Cam Thomas show is fun to watch. And he's moving the ball a little bit. So I think for a team that is going to be competing in the lottery, you like to see that it's out of the gates. It's got some vision. Kind of. I won't go there, but you watch you watch what the OKC Thunder did. I'm not making this comparison, but yes, they weren't having their best years, but they still had a vision. They still had a game plan, and look, that head coach is still there. So does Jordy Fernandez have a career? I'm interested in watching that play out because it seems like you know he's at least put together early goings, a team that's going to compete and fly around.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like you hope that not to dive in on the OKC comparison like you did, but like hopefully like Dennis Schroeder can provide that like little tutelage like CP3 did in that time he spent in OKC as well. Like I just say on Dennis Schroeder, like
Yeah.
he should be playing as a backup for a competitor. Like he is more than good enough to be playing that role. Like I think the Nuggets right now would snap your hand off to take him instead of Russell Westbrook. Like he should be playing backup guard minutes for a competitor because he is. It's not. I'm not just jumping
Yeah.
in because he's had that 29-point game or anything like that. Dennis Schroeder is a very smart, clever basketball player. Like he should be playing for a better team, but hopefully he's gonna keep doing his thing for Brooklyn and having a good impact on guys like Cam Thomas and stuff like that for sure. But yeah, we won't get too carried away. It is the Brooklyn Nets, a team that we absolutely know are tanking. But let's finish it out here. I'm gonna play a little game. It's called an early season or inevitability. Got a few little pointers here that I want to make a call on. Start out, Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren's rise to being a top tier big man. Is this early season hype or this inevitability?
Oh, it's always been an inevitability. Always. Um, I mean, should we dive into it? Because Chet is a unicorn. He's a guy that's going to be the core of a defense. He's going to block shots. Oh, also, he's got really great hands. He's going to disrupt your passing lane. Like defensively, he's just an ace. Like he's going to frustrate you. He's going to destroy game plans. And he's shown that weight doesn't matter. Like his verticality is too elite. His instincts are too elite. He's too good defensively. Then offensively, like last year, great showing, great floor spacing. You in the cut, you in the crasher boards. Had some decent like he was fitting into the game plan of passing. But he's showing he can pass on the move. He can pass in the short roll. He can create himself, not just in the fast break. Oh, you just passed him and on the wing. Like he can play like a wing. He can pass like a playmaking wing. He can defend like Rudy. I mean, just the way that he defends the rim. And he could space like an elite three-point shooter because not like he is an elite three-point shooter. There's nothing about Chet's game that is incomplete, and it's just about him, getting the opportunities and being aggressive about it. And I think you're starting to see that aggression and that opportunity. Now that Giddy's not there, I think he gets a little bit more on-ball opportunity and it just looks comfortable. There's nothing uncomfortable about his game. There's nothing forced about his game. So I think this is one of the things that is just like inevitable, not just this season, but in the future moving on. And yeah, last season, Wemby had all the hype, rookie of the year. He's incredible. He was phenomenal. But I think what's lost in that noise is the fact that Chet Holmgren was the more efficient player. and he was the more functional piece in an offense that is going to compete for a championship this year. And that can't be lost. Like this is absolutely a top tier, elite, whatever name you want to give it. Maybe numbers we have to talk about, like top whatever, but Chet's there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the numbers he's put up. This is really he's coming out here like, hey, remember me? Everyone's been talking about Wemby all summer.
Yeah.
You guys forget about me. Like he has been an absolute monster. 24 points, 13 boards, 4 blocks, 3 assists, 1.3 steals. Like, and somehow he's still shooting 56% from the field, even though he's shooting 20% from deep. But he's still making one a game, which is still pretty good for that sort of percentage from him. But it's great seeing him kind of him and J Dub have kind of almost split the kind of the role that like obviously Giddy filled last year. Like it hasn't just all gone to J Dub. It's been shared with Chet as well, which is obviously great to see. He looks like he's going out there and he's hearing all this hype about Wemby, and he's kind of like, you guys forgetting about me? Like, I'm interested to see how much this continues when Hartenstein enters the fray. It'd be interesting to see if there's any impact there. But Chet, like defensively, obviously elite, and we're seeing every game we're seeing more and more offensively. Like it's scary what this OKC Thunder have built, and Chet is absolutely a cornerstone on that, and not just defensively, offensively too. And he's getting in there where you're looking at the big men in the league, and we're going to see it throughout the season. Everyone's just going to start to realize that Chet is right up there when we talk about the best big men in the NBA.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. And I think I love that Hartenstein's on the team. I think he fits. I think he's going to contribute to their winning. He's going to be, if they, are in the finals and they're competing there, like he's going to be a big reason why. But I do not understand why people talk about Hartenstein as oh, well, maybe he's going to take away from Chet's opportunity. Maybe Chet's not going to grow. Like that makes no sense to me. Like Chet is far and away like a focal piece of this team, and
Mhm.
the talent difference between them and what he's able to do. I think Hardenstein will help him, but in no way, shape, or form, I think is Hardenstein going to take away from that, because Hardenstein at the end of the day is a backup center, elite backup center, but he's a backup center. And Chet Holmgren is going to soon in his career argue for being one of the best bigs in the league.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, next up, early season or inevitability. The Cleveland Cavaliers domination. 4-0 start plus 16.8 point differential. Is this early season or inevitability? I'm leaning towards early season, but I do think we're seeing this Cleveland team back together and healthy, and we're seeing them as definitely a team that can be a regular season dominatrix. They can be an elite regular season team for sure.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Both things are true, but I will say TBD, because they played Toronto with no rim protection, and Evan Mobley went crazy because they had no rim protection. They played Detroit, then they played Washington, and then they played New York. And a lot of those minutes playing against Jericho Sims. Karl Anthony Towns is not the scariest rim protector of all time. And Evan Mobley is a fantastic player, a rising player. But I think that it feels like an overreaction to the kind of competition they played against. It feels like an overreaction to the performance that Mobley had against Toronto. Let's chill. I think we got to chill. The headlines will come when it's deserved, but I think it does deserve saying that a lot of teams and a lot of people are going to count out the Cavs because of the inconsistency they had last year, but a lot of that had to do with health. And I'm glad you pointed out, because it's like they did not have enough consistency and continuity last season to really build on, what they could have been building. Mobley, as he's getting better, gets injured. Garland can barely put together stretches of 20 games without getting injured. So if they finally have that this season, I think that there's a level that the Cavs have just by being healthy. I think we talked about it, but it's too early beating the Raptors and Detroit and Washington. And, they had a good game against New York, but Brunson also had like one of the most uncharacteristic games I've seen from him in a minute. So let's
Defense,
wait.
there's only other defense. Like the reason I kind of looked at it is because it was like the manner of those victories. Obviously, beat Raptors by 30, beat the Pistons by 12, beat the Wizards by 19. that it was just the offense just being so much better than the teams they're facing. And then they went up against New York and they turned to defense, which we kind of believe is more so their calling card than offense. And they really locked in defensively. They really shut down Jalen Brunson. They like Garland was getting blocks on Jalen Brunson at the rim. Like how like crazy to think of that stuff like
Yeah,
that happening.
yeah.
They really made timely buckets. Like Garland really went off in the fourth quarter. It was about timely offense for them and really locking in defensively. That's what got them the win against the Knicks last night. Yeah, it probably helped that the Knicks still really haven't totally figured out how to get Karl Anthony Towns involved in the offense enough. That probably played into the Cavs' hands a little bit. But I kind of look at it and just think that it was the manner of how they won these games. And I think we always like Kenny Atkinson, ever since he left the role as the Nets head coach, he's kind of been mentioned in like pretty much all aspects of any of the teams that are looking for a new head coach. He's kind of been in the conversation. He's got this Cavs job. We always thought that he deserved another chance, and it looks like he's ready to go and grab it right now and build on what JB Bickerstaff started with this Cleveland team.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to be hopeful about all those things for sure. And I just want to see it against better competition. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they fare against, LA coming up, Orlando. That's going to be a big game.
Hmm.
And that's what I'm loving about like this early season is that there's a lot of teams like Orlando, like the Cavs, that do have a lot to prove, and there's going to be prove it games pretty early on. Then they play Milwaukee twice, and I think the difference between these two teams and the reason why I'm so worried about the Bucks is that there's hungry teams like the Cavs, like that are banking these early games that are not playing down to competition, and that's what really good teams do. And I think that's why I'm like holding my horses about the Cavs because I think they're that good. I think they should beat those teams by a lot because that's what good teams do. They are that level. But I think the question for them is like, are they a finals level team?
Hmm.
Can they push it that far? And that's what we've had yet to see in the playoffs. And we need to see them, compete against these teams. And I'm just glad they're doing it well right now. But kudos to them. Let's see what happens after next week. And maybe is that going to be a new sort of order if we see the Bucks fall to these kind of teams? And that's going to be the interesting part of the season is redefining what we think the elite teams are in the East because there's some young teams that are hungry and some old teams that, we're a little bit worried about.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely totally agree. And one thing that would definitely help the Cavs if Mobley continues to his shot continues to look as nice as it is. Not a crazy volume, but the stroke, it definitely looks nice when you see
You just want to do
shooting the
more.
threes and the jumpers. Yeah, yeah, that's
I want
true.
to see him do it more. That's one thing I would like to see a little bit more of. Can he be a little bit more aggressive with the shot? And same kind of conversation as AD. He
Hmm.
can do it inside, absolutely. I love how he's crashing and getting a lot of opportunistic points. But a lot of these points are just like, you know, off of, broken plays, offensive rebounds, opportunistic. He's cutting, but not a lot is like designed for him. Yes, you have Donovan Mitchell, a lot of the offense can revolve around him. But I'd like to see them, push in that direction a little bit. How much more can you get out of him? Because in the playoffs, Donovan Mitchell, he's going to be, public enemy number one. Defense is going to be going after him, and you need to see the Cavs build more offense elsewhere. What else can you get elsewhere? And I like that they're kind of staggering those two guys. It seems like the Garland and and the Fro, the way that they play off each other, and then you bring in Donovan Mitchell and you bring in Evan Mobley, kind of get them working together. I like that and I like that plan, but I want to see more from Mobley.
Hmm. Yeah, no, definitely agree. My fantasy team wants to see more as well. That's definitely for sure. All right, last one. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is the best pound for pound player in the NBA. Early season or inevitability?
Okay, I want to reframe that actually because I had to think about it and I'm like, who is the best pound for pound player in the NBA? And I want to name some other guys, man, because what about Trey Young? 6'1"? He's not 6'1", by the way. Trey Young is not 6'1". Trey Young is 6 feet tall. 164 pounds. Is that not the pound for pound best player in the league? What about John Moran? 6'2", 174. I mean, Shai's not small. I mean, Shai's a 6'5", 6'6" guard.
Two-way.
Two oh, two-way. You said two-way.
I said best player, but
Mm,
that Shea
mm.
plays both ends of the floor.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Best pound for pound. If you're talking about playing both ends of the ball, because Trae Young does not, John Morant does not, Jalen Brunson tries but does not. Uh, I think the only other guy you can think of around that size that is really playing well both ways is like Keon Ellis on the Kings. So
You
sure.
want to throw his name out there? That's all you, bro.
No, that is fair when you put it that way. Like who is really playing both ends of the ball like that? Honestly, man, is he? He could be. He probably is.
He
Because I mean,
probably is.
he is the top. Look at the guys who are in the top 10, and they're all bigs. They're all wings. It's Shea. I mean, I guess Luca is a point guard, but he's a wing playing point guard. I mean, Shea's like a traditionally like long point guard playing point guard, not really a wing. So I see what you're saying, and I think I gotta say yeah.
Yeah.
If we're talking both ends of
It's,
the ball,
yeah.
you can't really point elsewhere.
It's inevitable that he was going to rise up to this level because he's like, look at the number he's putting up already. Like only 3 games, but the Thunder look exactly like we thought they were going to look when we were going into this season. They've been absolutely dominant, 3-0. Made light work of the Nuggets in Denver. Made light work of the Raptors, or I think it was the Raptors, and then the Hawks. No, sorry, Chicago, and then the Hawks. And like Shea, 29 points, 8.7 boards, 6.3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Like his field goal percentage is taking a big hit, but only because he's shooting 2 times more 3-pointers than he did last season. But the two-way ability, just getting literally anything he wants offensively, it just puts him in that echelon, and where you're really like the MVP is kind of his to lose this year because I think the
Mhm.
OKC Thunder are going to be
Yes.
that dominant. I think he's still going to average his at least probably 36 and 6 and probably lead the league in steals. If that 3-point shot gets back up to being at like 35, 36%, I don't see how he doesn't win the MVP this year.
Dang, dang. I mean, Tatum's gonna have a word with that, but
True, true.
it's gonna be a close race. It's gonna be a close race. And on that note, I do have a quiz for you, a one-question quiz. So I had
Oh,
to get you
damn.
back. And this one's
Damn.
actually easy. This one's easy.
I'll lose, so go.
The biggest and the smallest players in this season play on the same team. Can you name them?
I can't name the guy that I don't know what his name is. I know it's Zach Edey and the Japanese player that plays for the Grizzlies.
Can
I
you
don't I
can
don't know
you
his name.
can you Oh, come on.
I don't know his name.
I'll give you partial credit for his college nickname.
No, no, it's not gonna happen because I've even seen the guy and I even when I was watching him and I was hearing the chants for him in one of the games I was watching of the Grizzlies and
Yuki,
I
Yuki,
yeah
Yuki Kawamura, the
yeah well
Japanese
Kawamura yeah
Steph
okay
Curry,
yeah
5'8", 159. I saw a picture of him and Zach next. It's hilarious.
it's
It's
like the
hilarious. It
Muggsy
doesn't look
Bogues
real.
Bol type vibes, yeah.
Well,
Not quite as
actually
bad as
credit.
that, but
Yeah, but Muggsy Bogues is 5'3". Yuki's 5'8".
yeah.
And this just goes to show everyone lies about their height in the NBA. Absolutely. I think Yuki's, I don't think he's five. Maybe he's 5'8". Maybe he's 5'8". But I mean, look at some of these guys. Davion Mitchell says he's 6 foot. Fred VanVleet says he's 6 foot. Jordan McLaughlin says he's 6 foot. These guys are not 6 feet.
Yeah,
These
it's
guys are
like
5'10". These
it's
guys are
like look,
5'10".
everyone wants to be 6 foot, but it's like even like remember that pic from the Olympics where we saw where like it looked like KD, Embiid, and like Bam Adebayo like all look like the same height or
They're
something,
all the
even though
same height. They're all the
even
same
though they're all
height.
listed different heights and
Yeah.
they're all listed at different heights in the NBA. But yeah, it's funny the way it comes out with the height thing. But yeah, everyone wants to be 6 foot. Come on, everyone wants to be that average sort of height. You know, you want to tell a girl, yeah, I'm 6 foot. I'm not 5'11". I'm 6 foot.
I'll tell the NBA I'm 6 foot. 5, 10 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, the half, you always gotta round up. You gotta be fair to yourself. You gotta do that round up. But I think that's gonna put a wrap on today's episode. Thank you all so much for joining us, Chris. Thank you for joining me. It's been fun getting back into NBA basketball. Still very early season, but Bucks, Pacers, keep an eye on them. The Knicks are going to figure it out. The Celtics and the Thunder are the two best teams in the NBA. We thought it going in, and we know it after the first few games of the season, but still a lot to go down, still a lot to change, still a lot to improve on, and we'll be here to cover it all for you when that happens. But for now, that's going to do it. Remember, we are everywhere on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.